Hello, my name is Catherine and I'm going to do a tutorial on zombie foot makeup. So I like to start with liquid latex, $9.84, found at Walmart. Nothing I use in my tutorials or FX makeup is expensive. Everything I either found at the dollar store or Walmart pretty much. I use these cheap wedgie sponges. I also found them at the dollar store. They work just as well as anything else. I like to cover the area pretty liberally with latex. If you can't get your hands on latex, you can use Elmer's glue. It just takes a few more layers to do Elmer's glue. And so I'm not a very patient person, so sometimes I just drop it on there and smear it around. It doesn't smell very good, so if you were gonna do this on somebody with sensitive skin or somebody who's sensitive to smell, it smells like ammonia. And so that's what sometimes if I choose to do it on the children, I'll just use Elmer's glue. And if you look up the ingredients to Elmer's glue, it is polymer based, but it also has animal proteins in it, so it's relatively safe. So as part of my FX makeup, I like to use 1-ply toilet paper. I roughen the edges by tearing it. I never have a straight edge because you can see the straight edge through the makeup, and then you have to edit it as out or build up the edges so you can't see it. It's just more natural to tear the edges and then build them up. It doesn't have to lay on there smooth. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's all going to be covered with the latex and moved around. It adds to the effect. So I layer it, put more latex on. I like to go all the way up past my wound, and that's how you get the edges to be smooth. And I know in a lot of people's makeup, that's a real issue, is smooth edges. And I get my smooth edges by going well around where I'm doing the makeup at. If it's on the foot, I go well up the ankle, well down the side of the foot, just to kind of smooth it all the way out. You can see the toilet paper, it'll move around. That doesn't really matter because I put a few layers on. And so we'll layer this up. Just kind of fill in the holes. Just make sure you don't have any straight edges on your toilet paper because that really shows, and that it doesn't look good. You can see it, you'll be able to see a crease, and that kind of messes things up. So you basically do like a paper mache technique. You just build it up. Just keep in mind, the more latex and toilet paper you put on, the longer it's going to take to dry, and it really should be pretty dry when you start the makeup itself. That's very important that the latex be dry. Let's see. Just keep layering it. Okay, so I saved you the grief of watching me layer and layer and layer and layer. And what I do is I just layer until I feel it's the right thickness. 4 or 5 layers should be good. So what I'm gonna do is we are gonna add a fake nail to this toe, but we need to put tissue underneath to kind of cover up the nail that already is there. So what I like to do is I never glue the nails on straight onto the skin. The glue is, it's nail glue, but it's super glue-ish, and it's very irritating, and it really is very sticky, and when you go to pull it off, it can damage your skin. So we're gonna make some flesh. Take a cotton ball. You can use a Q-tip too. I like to really shred it. Makes it easier to work with. And so I saturate it with Stage Blood. Found at Walmart. Pretty cheap. I'll saturate it with some Stage Blood. I'll add some lotion. I just chose this lotion because that's what I have. And it's in a pump bottle, so it makes it easy to work with. I just like to mix it in there. Kind of get it really gooey. The thing about these cotton swabs is that once they're saturated, they're pretty pliable, and they're easily spread. So I just add it to the already existing toenail to make it look fleshy, and it looks pretty cheesy right now with the color, but we will add to it and make it so it is more realistic. It's just a base for now. I like to just kind of stick it on there. It won't stick by itself, so we'll get it to where we want it and then add a little latex around the edges so it stays put. Let's see here, that's pretty good. I like to add it to the end of the toe. If you've ever stubbed your toe and broken it open, you know it's pretty fleshy looking underneath your calluses, and that's the look we're going for. This isn't something I practice on a daily basis. I'm an artist, and so this is just a medium I like to work in. I'm not a professional. I use very cheap products, but effective. They work for me, what I do, which is mostly just for fun. And so I put this on here, and then I go back to my dollar store sponge, which is looking pretty gnarly right now. Just a little bit of latex. And so when you add the latex, it will cover up the coloring, kind of. But latex dries, one layer of latex will dry clear, which is fantastic. And so I put it around the edges, but I don't put it really on top of the toenail because I don't want it to cover up the texture, but I put it around the edges so I can get it to glue on pretty good. I have lots of extra latex around the foot from dripping it everywhere. And so you can see this, I kind of smooth it down, moved around the edge of the toe and the end of the toe where the damage would be. Sometimes you have to be persistent about pressing it. And this is all wet, and so we'll pause this a little bit and let it dry. All right, so we've dried this. When time constraints are an issue, you can use a hairdryer, and it actually works pretty effective. You know that it's dry when it's rubbery and not wet. This is still a little tacky and wet, but it's filled with lotion, so it's not going to be super dry, but it is adhered to the toe where we want it to be, and so that's perfect. So we'll go ahead and take the nail. It's just a plastic fake nail. We pre-fit it to the toe, so it was pretty accurate. These are fingernails, so they're not as wide as they could be. So you can flatten it out because it's not going to matter if it's cracked or yucky looking. We want it yucky looking. I take my little cuticle scissors and cut away at the nail. I just kind of chop it to make it look yucky and broken. If you cut too far, it doesn't matter really. I always make sure there's no really sharp edges on it that'll get caught on anything or because these can be pretty sharp. So I cut away at this, cut that. So it's kind of broken and yucky looking and gnarly. I take my little super glue and just apply it. Be careful not to get this stuff on your skin because it will adhere to your skin. And so I just press that down. I don't like to do a lot of handling because I always end up gluing myself to the super glue, always. And so I let that dry for a minute and then I kind of pull it up. You know, the tissue will come with it and that's okay. Just kind of move it around, but you want to wait until it's pretty dry because you will glue your fingers to your prosthetic and that's kind of a pain in the butt. So I'm just pulling it, kind of move it around. You can move the toe back where it goes. We want it to look lifted, like it was stubbed and yucky. The nail is a little disproportionate because this is a bigger foot. So we'll let that dry a little more. I run the risk of gluing my finger to the prosthetic and that's not something I want to do. So we'll go ahead and paint. This is a good old dollar store brush. I just used some foundation that I had. I don't wear foundation, so it's just been sitting, and I just mixed a couple colors together because I want to blot it in to the prosthetic and blend it with the ankle. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't really even have to match the skin tone all that good. It just kind of needs to fill in the spaces, so it just adds to the texture and color that is. You can see that my brush is already dirty. It already has stage blood in it and eyeshadow. I use eyeshadow and blush for my coloring, and you can see that it's already starting to take shape. So I take some good old dollar store eyeshadow and dollar store blush, and I've scraped it out onto my palette, and I just pick up here and there. Nothing too specific, and I just kind of blot it on, and at first it looks really cheesy, and that's okay, but you just keep working it and moving it around and brushing in the colors. If you get it too condensed one spot, you can go up and pick up some more of your flesh tone color and kind of marble over it to just kind of blend it in. You don't want it too concentrated, but you do want it to go well above the prosthetic and onto the skin, because the bruising really makes a difference in how the skin looks and how the edges look. And so we go all the way around and make it look yucky and bruised and torn up. And you can see I'm picking up some parts of where it's not completely dry. So we'll put those back down and kind of leave that area alone. And so we'll just go ahead and we'll go all the way up the ankle so it looks bruised and irritated. I like to use a little bit of green. I did get this green at the Halloween store. It wasn't very expensive, I think $3 maybe for some cream paint. And I'll just brush that around the toe, and we'll brush it in and then we'll cover it up basically. But we want it to look yucky and infected and angry and all the things that Halloween makeup should look like. So we'll cover this flesh up a little bit. You know, when the flesh starts to die, it turns very dark, very purpley and blue and black, and if it's infected, there's a little bit of green there. And so you just work it about, and then I like to cover up my toenail a little bit. I'll cover it up and then wipe it off so you can still see that there's a toenail there. I'll just use my sponge that I've already used and kind of clean my toenail up a little bit. I have some stage blood on my palette that I like to do the fine details with. You can see how pliable the end of the toe is. And so to really add some yucky, I'm using Cherry Lip Gloss, another dollar store find, if you can believe that. It's red, it's gooey, it's perfect for sliding up under the nail and kind of adding it. So because it is so cheesy looking, but it's a really nice consistency, I'll add my own colors to it to move it around. I just like to use it as another medium because it's so thick. We kind of want to look like the toe's been stubbed and the tissue is pulling away. You know, and it'll dry. Everything, if you're patient, it'll dry and it'll come together, and then it'll be a wearable makeup. And so we'll do the other toes in the same manner. They didn't get stubbed, so the tissue on them is just fine. If you wanted them to look like they had been degloved or disrupted, you can do all the toes in the same cotton ball manner with the stage blood and the latex and lotion. And so here we'll add some pus. And since pus isn't usually just nice and shiny white like Jergens lotion, we'll mix it in there. Maybe add some more flesh color just to kind of give it that sore, very sore toe look. And so basically I just decorate it. And so I have my yucky toe, and so I have my sore toe, but I want a wound. I did all this layering of tissue up here to create a wound. And so what we'll do is, very carefully and very trusting, you have to find where you layered it, and you just lift it very carefully, especially if you're doing it on somebody else and not yourself. So I like to use my little scissors because they're very sharp. They're very, they have a very pokey end, which is easy to lift the latex. And so the latex won't be really stuck to the skin because it's so thick. You can see how thick it is. And so, you know, the toe is infected, and it's caused the rest of this skin to become infected. And so we want it to make wounds. And you can rip it. I like to clip and then rip it because that seems to be the most effective way of doing it. It's very thick. You'll be very surprised. But it's very pliable. And so what I like to do is make some more flesh. But before I do that, I like to color the underneath skin and get it really dirty looking, because if it shows through my makeup or it shows through the flesh, you know, that I'm building, then it will, it won't look clean. It'll look like it's supposed to be like that. Oh, this brush is no longer usable. It probably has too much latex. So I'll get one of my old sponges that has lots of makeup on it, and I'll just go ahead and get my holes, get my underneath makeup, you know, dirty, and then I'll make some more flesh lotion and blood. We'll add more blood because who doesn't like blood? And you can just let it drip because you're going to use it anyway. And so I have my yucky tissue, but tissue really isn't bright like this, especially affected tissue. So I'll just go ahead and clean up my palette with it and make it nice and spread out and thin, and then just apply it underneath my prosthetic so it looks like the tissue has been disrupted underneath the skin and that it's very angry. You can move it around. If you were going to wear this out, I would add a little layer of latex to keep it in place because it'll probably shift and move, but we're just doing this for your benefit, and so I'm not going to add any more latex. There's a little hole right here, and so it looks like a hot mess, which is the point. And so I'll go ahead and clean up the blood a little bit. My tissue moved. We want it to look like it's been infected and torn and that it's infecting the toe. I think we'll lift the toe up a little bit and put an owie at the toe. You can see if you don't secure the cotton, it likes to come with you. And so we'll put, you know, the toes would be very infected if this was your natural self and inflamed. You want to spread everything out so it's not uniform, kind of gooey and gross. And I like to add fresh lotion to the inside of it so it kind of looks oozy. I'll add fresh lotion. To it, and then we'll add some more stage blood. Sometimes you can get this blood and it looks like it's clotted, so maybe we'll try to make some clotted blood. Stage blood, and we'll do some stage blood, and then we'll add some cornstarch. And I'll use my yucky brush to just kind of mix it up. We'll add some more stage. We'll add some more stage blood and clot the blood so it looks like it's clotted. Mixy mix. You know, when I make too much stuff like this, I'll just transfer it to a different tube and then just keep it for next time. But you can see this looks frothy, like infected blood, which is what I'd want around the toenail. You know, coming out of the top of the foot, all the holes that you did, you'd want that. And so this makeup looks pretty good, but it's lacking something, and what it's lacking is black. And so let's see, we'll use a clean brush. To go too heavy on black can be really detrimental to your makeup, but to not go heavy enough on it can also really, you know, change the dynamic of, like, if something were rotting or infected. The black causes a lot of shadows, and it really helps bring out the makeup and the realism of the makeup. So I really like to use, you know, black and kind of marble it in. You can even rub it onto the latex because the latex has its own texture, and so to not condense it in one spot, but to really use it and the blood together to kind of make a shadow inside the wounds would be, you know, darker. The flesh would be darker. Oops, I'm moving my cotton around. Which is why it's important, if you are going to wear this out, to make sure that it's secure. And so we've kind of covered up our toenail, but we can kind of wipe it away so you can still see your yucky toenail. If you paint on this too much before it's dried, it will start to lift. And so that's okay. You can see the top of the foot is pretty gnarly. The other thing I like to do is water down some sage blood. We'll just use the coagulated blood, water it down a little bit. Add some black to it. And then splatter it. And you can't see, you can see where it's splattering big, but if you could see where it splatters close to the makeup, that's an extra detail that's pretty important. I really, as an artist, I like detail a lot. So when I do this, you know, I like there to be a lot of realism. You could even brush it in. Brushing, the brush part is really good for if you were gonna do a zombie bite. Little brushes, a lot of stippling and marbling for bruising effect. Bruises aren't one color in one spot. They're kind of all over the place. And so I think that's pretty good disgusting makeup. Not super involved, doesn't take a terribly long time to do, and it's not terribly expensive, but it's pretty realistic and pretty disgusting. And if you want to make it even more disgusting, see this big gaping hole? We'll take some of our coagulated blood and fill our yucky hole. And we'll take some of our base makeup with the same brush, because I'm not organized like that. I just like it all to be kind of mixed together. And so more sage blood, because the more the merrier. Some lotion, well hydrated zombie skin. Mix that in, and we'll fillet that a little bit so it's pretty yucky. And we'll add rice. You don't want to get like crazy with the rice, but I like to make a statement, and so it's really disgusting. It seems to really bother people, which I think is kind of the point. I like to kind of cover it up, and then I'll add a little more. It's always stuck to my hand anyway. And so, you know, I like detail a lot, and this is a really good detail to have in your makeup. So there's that. Cover up. You don't want any clean edges, no clean edges. You can see how you play with it too long, you can really mess it up. But we'll just, if you mess it up, you add too much, you just go back and add more purple. Like if your maggots are getting away from you. And that's it. That's how it's done. Thank you.